Beyond the Gates spoilers tease that Danny Dupree's simmering suspicion that Hayley Hamilton's announced pregnancy is nothing more than a cunning performance will soon collide with a crisis so severe that every certainty these characters have clung to will come tumbling down. In the days leading up to Hayley's sudden abdominal agony, Danny's doubts sharpened into something resembling resolve. She watched Bill, newlywed to Hayley, dote on his wife with an earnestness that only inflamed her skepticism. Each vacant glare at ultrasounds Danny arranged, each whispered moan of nausea, seemed to her a thespian's artifice. And yet, when Hayley collapsed one afternoon clutching her belly, the stage crumbled beneath her feet, and under the harsh glare of hospital lights, a truth far more dangerous than mere fraudulent pregnancy would emerge. Danny's doubt was fueled by the small inconsistencies she'd catalogued. She remembered that in the early weeks, Hayley had claimed to feel the first flutter of life, but Danny had seen no real joy, only the mechanical motions of a woman who had practiced tears in front of her mirror. When Bill relayed Hayley's fetal movement, her soft, contented murmurs in the night, Danny recalled how Hayley's eyes had glinted with something like calculation rather than wonder. Bill, eager to believe, had brushed off Danny's unease with gentle admonitions. "She loves you, Danny." She wouldn't lie. But Danny, haunted by past betrayals, refused to surrender her vigilance. Every fresh twist of Hayley's watery smile only urged Danny deeper into suspicion's snare. The day it all came to a head began like any other, Hayley complaining of mild cramps at breakfast, Bill fetching herbal tea to soothe her, Danny lingering at the edge of the table, feigning casual concern even as her pulse thudded with weariness. Hayley had downplayed the pain like a seasoned actor, minimizing her struggle until the cramps intensified into a relentless throb. By mid-afternoon, her breathing had sharpened into ragged gasps. Bill arrived home to find her doubled over on the living room couch, a sheen of sweat across her forehead, arms wrapped protectively around her abdomen. Panic seized him, and though Danny's first thought was that Hayley was staging yet another ploy, her heart tightened at the sight of genuine distress in Hayley's ashen features. The drive to the hospital was a blur of red lights and screeching tires. Bill gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles gleamed white, while Danny sat in the back seat, cell phone poised over Google Maps in case Hayley insisted on a diversion to a less reputable clinic. Inside the gleaming emergency room, the trio found themselves swallowed by white walls and fluorescent glare. Hayley, shivering despite the heat, rode the gurney in silence, her eyes clammy with fear. Bill kept a hand on her shoulder, murmuring soothing words. Danny, arms crossed, observed the scene with a detached intensity that belied her hidden terror. In the examination room, Dr. Elena Morgan entered with a bright, professional air, clipboard in hand. She met Hayley's gaze with frank warmth. "We'll take good care of you," she promised, voice a balm against the antiseptic chill. As vitals were taken, blood pressure, pulse, temperature, the room filled with the steady hum of monitors. Bill hovered, leaning in to catch every word. Danny shifted from foot to foot, eager for the moment when the truth of Hayley's condition would be laid bare. Dr. Morgan first spoke the language of pregnancy protocol. They would administer an ultrasound to confirm fetal heartbeat, run blood tests to check hormone levels, monitor for signs of miscarriage. Hayley, though trembling, nodded with a precision that seemed rehearsed. She clutched Bill's hand, her fingers entwined in a grip that conveyed both desperation and resolve. Danny watched those entwined fingers with distilled contempt, proof, she thought, of a carefully timed performance. The sonogram began with the usual procedural calm. A technician spread gel across Hayley's abdomen and placed the transducer with gentle proficiency. The grayscale screen flickered to life, revealing the shapes of internal organs and, to the unpracticed eye, a reassuring sign of pregnancy, a soft, flickering ellipse that most would interpret as the gestational sac. Bill's face lit up. He leaned forward, voice trembling with emotion. They're at Eyesore, baby. Hayley nodded once, a small, victorious smile curving her lips. Danny swallowed, forcing herself to maintain a neutral expression as she noted every shift in Hayley's posture, the slightest stiffening of her shoulders, a hint of stress in her jaw. Yet as the technician adjusted the probe, Dr. Morgan frowned. The flicker of what should have been a tiny heartbeat was absent. "That's unexpected," the doctor murmured, leaning closer to the monitor. The technician's brow furrowed. "No cardiac activity," she reported softly. Bill's smile faltered, confusion and alarm pooling in his eyes. Danny's heart leapt finally, the moment she'd been waiting for. Evidence of fakery, evidence that Hayley was drawing them through a surreal game. But the doctor did not seem pleased. Her tone was concerned rather than triumphant. Dr. Morgan gestured for more images, angled the transducer higher, lower, probing every quadrant. The room fell silent save for the machine's soft clicks and whirs. After several tense minutes, she turned to Hayley with hands raised in a gesture of apology. "Hayley, I'm so sorry. I don't see any sign of pregnancy. The measurements I'm getting correspond to a mass and abnormal growth." She hesitated, choosing her words. "It appears you have a sizable mass in your abdomen. We'll need to run additional imaging, a CT scan or MRI to identify its nature." Bill's face drained of color. Danny, stunned, realized she had reset her expectations entirely wrong. This was no ruse by Hayley. If it was a ruse, it was far more sinister and involuntary. Bill closed his eyes, then reached for Hayley's hand, seeking reassurance in her squeeze. "A mass," he echoed, "but I saw the sac." The doctor nodded gently. "The initial sonogram can mistake some tumors, especially those rich in vascular tissue, for gestational structures. And your hormone levels were elevated. Beta-HCG can be produced by certain tumors." Hayley's eyes brimmed with tears. Her voice, when she spoke, trembled. "I thought I was pregnant." "I really did." Bill drew her into his arms as Danny stepped forward, mind racing to reconcile her prior accusations with this new, devastating reality. In the adjacent corridor, they waited while Hayley underwent an MRI. Danny rested against the wall, knees buckling as the weight of her misjudgment settled over her like a stone. Bill's panic had softened into something deeper, a cold dread that spread through his chest. When Hayley emerged, clad in a hospital gown and pale as bone, Dr. Morgan led them to a private room where thick curtains hid them from prying eyes. Dr. Morgan sat at the foot of the bed, her face somber. "Hayley," she began, "the MRI confirms a mass approximately 8 centimeters in diameter. It's irregular, with features concerning for malignancy. We believe it is a stage 3 tumor, likely ovarian in origin, though we'll need a biopsy to be certain." The words stage 3 hit like a thunderclap. Bill gasped. Danny's own breath caught. She felt as though every molecule of air in her lungs had been replaced by molten lead. Dr. Morgan continued, "Unfortunately, the growth is advanced. Stage 3 indicates that it has likely spread beyond the ovary into adjacent tissues. We need to schedule a biopsy within the next 48 hours, after which we'll discuss treatment options: surgery, chemotherapy, possibly radiation." "I'm so sorry." Bill swallowed hard, fighting for composure. Danny, groping for words to assuage both her guilt and her shock, finally managed, Is there hope?" The doctor managed a weary smile. "There are always options. But the prognosis is guarded. The treatments can be effective, but at this stage, it's going to be a tough battle." Bill sank into the chair, his shoulders heaving with the onset of tears. He pressed a hand to his face before his eyes, letting the tears fall free. Danny, who had vowed never to rest until Hayley's deception was laid bare, found herself stepping forward to comfort the very person she'd accused. She placed a tentative hand on Hayley's knee. "We're here for you," Danny said softly, voice strained. "We'll fight this together." Hayley's head lolled to the side, She reached for Bill's hand. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know." Bill's tears dripped onto the hospital gown. "It's not your fault," he choked. "We love you. You'll get through this." In the long hours that followed, they sat in near darkness, the only light the soft glow of a small lamp. Danny replayed every moment of her suspicion, every accusation she'd thrown at Hayley. She felt shock not just at the medical revelation, but at the realization that she had been so blind. Bill, exhausted from the emotional roller coaster, urged them both to rest. Hayley lay with her head on his shoulder, the rhythmic rise and fall of his breath a lullaby in the sterile quiet. They left the hospital that evening under a moonless sky. Bill drove slowly, his hand on the wheel as though gripping the world in place. Danny sat beside him in the front seat, her own eyes red-rimmed with tears. Hayley dozed in the back, clutching Bill's scarf to her chest like a talisman. The car's headlights carved paths through the darkness. The road stretched on ahead, unknown challenges looming like shadows beyond the reach of the high beams. Back at the house, Bill helped Hayley to her bedroom, his care a soft reassurance against her weakness. Danny lingered in the hallway, hesitating before knocking. Bill opened the door, his face crestfallen. "She's asleep," he whispered. "Come in." Danny entered and approached the bedside. Hayley's cheeks were hollow, her breathing shallow. Danny knelt beside the bed. "Hayley," she murmured. Hayley stirred, cracked open her eyes, and gave a small, tired smile. "Thank you," she whispered. "For staying." Danny swallowed. "I'm sorry," she said, voice raw. I should have believed you from the start." Hayley's fingers found hers. "I understand," she said. "I know I didn't make it easy." Danny covered Hayley's hand with both of hers. "I'll make it up to you," she promised. "I'll be here." As dawn broke, Bill and Danny sat in silence over coffee in the kitchen. Bill stared at his mug. "I never thought I'd lose her," he said quietly. Danny reached over, placing a hand on his arm. "We have to prepare for whatever comes," she said. Bill nodded, steeling himself. "Whatever it takes," he agreed. And together, they faced the day that lay ahead, a day filled with uncertainty, fear, and the faint glimmer of hope that love, at its strongest, can weather even the most devastating revelations. The dawn after the diagnosis set the tone for the weeks to come, solemn, tentative, and charged with the need to forge a new reality out of shattered expectations. Hayley's treatment began almost immediately. Bill accompanied her to the oncology ward every morning, his hand a constant anchor in hers. He watched as the nurse inserted in 4-line that would drip chemotherapy into her veins, the antiseptic sting a cruel reminder of the battle ahead. Danny hovered nearby, taking notes as though she were cataloging a critical case study: dosages, side effects, emotional responses, determined to be the fiercest advocate for Hayley's comfort and dignity. The first round of chemo left Hayley drained. She arrived home pale and feverish, her once fiery spirit dulled under the weight of nausea and fatigue. Bill and Danny took turns caring for her. Bill prepared soft foods she could tolerate: rice porridge with ginger, clear broths, herbal teas, while Danny researched complementary therapies to ease her symptoms, from guided meditation apps to acupressure techniques that might relieve her queasiness. In the evenings, they gathered around her in the living room, Bill on the couch beside her, Danny at her feet reading passages from her favorite novels or playing soft music to soothe the edges of her pain. Through it all, the tension between Danny and Hayley melted into something tender and protective. Danny, who had once seen Hayley as a manipulator, now viewed her as a sister under siege, and the walls of suspicion dissolved in the face of Hayley's genuine fragility. Hayley's gratitude was quiet but profound. A hand on Danny's cheek, a whispered "thank you" in Bill's ear, the slightest smile when she felt well enough to enjoy the smell of spring lilacs Bill brought home each week. In these small gestures lay the real heart of their bond, shared determination to cling to moments of joy amid the roar of crisis. As the tumor responded to initial treatment, its mass, shrinking on follow-up imaging, hope flickered back to life. Bill and Hayley celebrated each fractional decline in size, a 15% reduction, then 30%. Yet, with every milestone came new challenges. Hayley's hair thinned into brittle strands that fell in tufts, and Danny fashioned her a soft scarf from Hayley's favorite cashmere sweater. Bill, uncharacteristically, struggled with the sight of Hayley's changing appearance. Each fallen lock felt to him like a betrayal by fate. But Hayley met each change with grace. One morning, she looked at herself in the mirror, wrapped the scarf around her head, and turned to Bill with a brassy grin. "I always wanted to try the boho chic look," she quipped. His laughter cracked open a moment of levity in their sterile routine. Behind the scenes, Danny channeled her investigative instincts into improving Hayley's quality of life. She tracked the side effects of each drug protocol, consulted online support groups, and even persuaded the oncologist to prescribe anti-nausea patches that allowed Hayley to eat small meals. Danny called every supplier she could find to source fresh ginger chews, peppermint aromatherapy, and plush blankets that heated gently in the microwave. She cataloged which interventions offered real relief and which were mere placebo, then compiled a comfort protocol that Hayley could follow on her toughest days. Bill marveled at Danny's transformation from skeptic to caregiver, and the three of them, patient and guardians, formed a trio of fierce devotion. When a complication arose, Hayley developed an infection. Due to lowered immunity, Bill dropped work obligations to stay by her side in the hospital. Danny coordinated home meals and childcare for their friends' children, friends who'd rallied around the family, ensuring that nothing distracted them from Hayley's recovery. They sat through rounds of 4 antibiotics and blood cultures, watching the monitors until the numbers stabilized. Hayley, fevered but lucid, looked at them and whispered, "I've never felt more loved." Bill squeezed her hand, Danny's eyes glistening with tears. They knew love alone couldn't cure cancer, but it could fortify the human spirit against its darkest blows. As summer slipped into autumn, the treatment entered a pivotal phase: surgery to remove residual tumors. The prospect terrified Hayley. She feared the anesthesia, the scars, the unknown complications, but Bill and Danny surrounded her with unwavering support. On the morning of her operation, Bill held her hand in the pre-op room, brushing her hair back from her forehead, murmuring inconsequential details about the day ahead to calm her jittery nerves. Danny hovered at the door, eyes resolute, ready to pounce on the surgeon with questions if necessary. When the anesthesiologist administered the pre-surgery medication, Hayley drifted to sleep in Bill's arms. He kissed her forehead, and Danny slipped him a reassuring nod. The hours in the operating theater seemed endless. Bill and Danny clung to each other in the waiting lounge, whispering prayers and mapping out the recovery calendar: ICU for a night, then a private room, physical therapy to rebuild strength, a regimen of gentle exercise and nutrition. When the surgeon finally emerged, a tall, calm man with kind eyes, Bill's heart lurched. The surgeon offered a measured smile. "The operation went well," he said. "We removed the visible mass, and pathology suggests clean margins. We'll have to monitor for microscopic cells, but this is the best possible outcome at stage 3. Bill exhaled, Danny's hand on his back, as they together absorbed the cautious optimism. Recovery was grueling. Hayley's abdomen ached, her energy plummeted, and there were days she wondered whether the end result would justify the ordeal. Bill insisted on sleeping in a recliner beside her hospital bed when pain flares kept her awake. Danny crafted playlists of soothing music and recorded guided meditations Hayley could listen to when she could no longer talk. At home, they adapted the house to her needs, installing handrails in the bathroom, setting up a comfortable recliner in the bedroom, programming the coffee maker to brew herbal tea at dawn so Hayley could sip without leaving her pillows. Each modification was a testament to their collective determination to make life livable again. As winter's frost glazed the world outside, the uncertainty of future scans remained. Bill learned to conquer his panic attacks by focusing on the small things: Hayley's quiet laugh when she saw snowflakes dance outside the window, the way the cat curled up in her lap, the triumphant moment she ate a full breakfast without nausea. Danny, once consumed by suspicion, now channeled her intensity into advocacy. She volunteered at the cancer center, leading a support group for family members, sharing tools she had assembled to ease the emotional burden of caring for a loved one. In channeling her own turmoil into helping others, she found purpose and healing. One crisp morning, Hayley returned to the oncologist for her first post-surgery follow-up. Bill and Danny accompanied her into the bright consultation room. The doctor examined her scans, his face contemplative. Then he smiled and said, "No new growths. The resection appears complete, and your hormone levels have stabilized. We'll maintain surveillance every 3 months, but you're on the path to remission." Relief flooded the room. Bill's shoulders sagged. Danny's breath came in a rush, and Hayley closed her eyes, tears of gratitude slipping down her cheeks. They embraced in a silent trio of triumph. In the months that followed, life regained a semblance of normalcy, though none of them ever forgot the fragility they had shared. Bill and Hayley celebrated their first anniversary post-treatment by planting a flower bed in the backyard, bright marigolds for strength, pink roses for love, and lavender for healing. Danny threw herself into organizing a charity gala for the cancer center, featuring Hayley as the guest of honor speaker whose story would inspire others facing the darkness of a dire diagnosis. On the gala evening, Hayley stood on the stage in a simple, elegant gown. Bill watched from the front row, his chest swelling with pride. Danny, seated beside him, offered a thumbs up, her eyes shining with tears she refused to shed in public. Hayley's speech, heartfelt, honest, laced with humor, captured the journey from suspicion and betrayal through crisis and into the light of recovery. She spoke of Bill's unwavering devotion and Danny's fierce loyalty, admitting that she had once feared she was alone, but had discovered instead a family forged in fire. As applause rippled through the ballroom, Hayley looked out at the faces shining back at her: friends, family, survivors, and caregivers. She raised her glass in a silent salute to the two people whose bond with her had transformed suspicion into solidarity and dread into hope. Outside, the world spun on, indifferent to human suffering. But within that hall, beneath the glow of 1,000 candles, Hayley, Bill, and Danny embodied the truth that love, when tested by pain, can emerge stronger, brighter, and more enduring than any fear.